Here we are to the second part of the warm-up. Forgetting the background, just getting down to work. But I do want to repeat, this method does not work well if the equation has a middle term. None of these equations do. They may look like it, but they don't. Only 3 steps. First, we get the part that's being squared by itself. And then we can take the square root of both sides. Remember, there are going to be 2 solutions. Now, there will appear to be 2 exceptions to this, and we'll cover these in the warm-up and the practice. So starting with number 1, the x is being squared. We have to get this part by itself. So we can add 16 to both sides. So x squared equals 24. Since the squared part's by itself, we just take the square root of both sides. So x is going to equal the square root of 24, but it's going to be the positive square root of 24 and the negative square root of 24, because there are going to be those 2 solutions. And that's right, but that's not simplified. This radical can be broken down. We can make this the square root of 4 times 6. 4 is a perfect square. So the simplified answer would be x is the positive or negative of 2 times the square root of 6. Moving on to number 2. The x is what's being squared. We are going to need to get x by itself. Sorry, x squared by itself. Well, the easiest thing to do is add 18 to both sides here. X squared is almost by itself. Now if we divide by 7, we get that x squared equals 3. And we can take the square root of both sides. So x is going to be the square root of 3. Except it's going to be the positive and negative of the square root of 3. And that's about as simple as it's going to get. Okay, the third problem. It's not an x that's being squared, it's an entire parenthesis that's being squared. So we want to try to isolate this parenthesis squared. We can do that if we divide both sides by 3. So now we have the quantity x minus 5 in parentheses, whole thing being squared, equals 4. And it's time now to take the square root of both sides. So the square root of something being squared is just itself. And then this is going to be, square root of 4 could be either positive 2 or negative 2. In this case, we're going to have to cover both options. X minus 5 equals positive 2, or x minus 5 equals negative 2. And we'll have to solve each of them. So x could be 7, or x could be 3. So if you put a 7 in here, 7 minus 5 will give us 2, and we'd square 2. If you put a 3 in here, 3 minus 5 would give us negative 2, and we'd square the negative 2. Either way, this would be a 4 after you squared it. The last one of these on the warm-up. So the x is what's being squared. We need to get it by itself. We can subtract 10 from both sides. Then we can divide both sides by 3. Oh wait, this might be a problem. Because we can't take the square root of negative 2. And there was a reason why there's a little star here. This is one of the special cases. There is no real answer. There are no real roots to this equation. What it means in terms of the graph, well, this had to be a positive parabola. So it's just floating up here somewhere. It's not crossing the x-axis. Now there are 2 imaginary roots, which you probably covered in Algebra 2. The square root of 2 is the same as the square root of 2 times negative 1. And they had a name for the square root of negative 1. They called it I. So this could be written square root of 2 times I, or sometimes they call it I square root of 2. We'll worry about that later. Right now, there's no real number answer for this. And that's the end of the warm-up. So would you please move on and try some problems on your own in the practice?